Yo, this is Ali Sadiq, and you watching Get Your Geek On podcast with me, baby.
Hi, I'm Brian Brayman, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
You are watching the Get Your Geek On podcast with Chuck, Robert, and Anthony.
I'm Dan Cummins, and you are watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Hi, I'm Mike Sapsik from AMC's Comic Book Man, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Hello, I'm Oglethorpe, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to probably the most exciting edition of the Get Your Geek On podcast ever. I'm your host, Chuck Keywatts.
I am Robert Dills.
We are talking all things Avengers Endgame. We are coming to you on Sunday, April 27th. We just got word before we started rolling that the official box office numbers are out. Opens with $1.2 billion worldwide, $358 million US alone, more than $100 million more than the previous record broken by Infinity War, which I also didn't realize 7 years ago, Avengers was the first movie to ever open to 200 million US. Now Endgame, which 300 million was considered this mythical number that you could never reach, blows by it so hard. First movie ever to open to $1 billion, already the 18th highest grossing movie of all time, has already grossed more than the entire lifetime run of Aquaman and Dark Knight Rises in 3 days. Already in profitability too.
Yeah. No, you knew they were going to get that
money. A 3 hour runtime though, that's crazy. Yeah. No, theaters were staying open 24 hours.
Yeah. This is something. Here is the thing about this: that Disney knew that they were going to get their money back. Whenever they did,
I couldn't have predicted this.
I like
300 million. I wish you guys knew how crazy it is that they really hit that number. Like that's insane. And I'm saying it now. If this can't take down Avatar, nothing ever will. Yeah. But to get you guys an idea of how insane this truly is, I think it was 400 AMCs stayed open 24 hours all weekend. That has never happened. Not even with a Star Wars movie. One time ever, I have been to a screening past 12 a.m. and it was when Dark Knight came out. I went to a 3 a.m. and then a 6 a.m. because this was back in the day before online tickets, so it was standbys. There was people waiting. They just decided to run extra times, and that was just pure chance. The fact that there are people that are seeing this movie at like 4 o'clock in the morning, all over and sold out. Like this morning, we're going to see it again at 8:45 tonight. I logged in at 7 o'clock this morning. 35 showtimes up until 8:45, completely sold out. I have never seen a phenomenon like this.
I'm not. The way that the way that Infinity War left people last year, and outside of the fact that they didn't want to, I'm pretty sure Disney didn't want anything to leak online like it has. Yeah, everybody's like,
I'm so proud of myself. It's the first time I've ever stayed away from spoilers. So I'll be honest. Somebody, an asshole in the comments section, had typed a spoiler, and I tried to look away quickly, and all I had seen. By the way, this is a full spoiler review, 100% full spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, turn away now. Someone in the comments had typed Iron Man died, and I just looked away instantly, but I was like, that's the one thing I didn't want. But I stayed away from everything. I went into this movie so clean, and I'm so happy that I did, because I had so many scream out loud moments. Like, I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat at points. Like,
as we were talking about this over the course of the week in terms of this, I had basically been on lockdown because I became very, very scared because Disney just kept dropping these like scenes, and I'm like,
did you see what they just dropped an hour ago?
No.
The new 15-second TV spot that reveals so many spoilers.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to see any part of this film. I did not want it ruined for me. I did not want anything to happen like that. I was just like...
And since I'm here and not in jail, that tells you that that one frame that I wanted was in it, and so badass. So badass. So let's start off here. They were not lying when they said that those trailers showed the first 15 minutes of the movie. Yeah. You have no idea what this movie is about. Even the line with Cap being like, I don't know what I'm going to do if this doesn't work. I would have thought that was like at the end of the movie. No. Nope. First 15 minutes of this movie opens up hardcore dark. Doesn't even feel like a 3-hour movie, first of all.
No, it doesn't.
But we get the immediate effects of Infinity War. It's 21 days later. Tony Stark is stuck in space. The remaining Avengers on Earth, they're trying to piece shit together with Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel decides that she's just going to fly off and find Thanos because they realize he's used the stones again, and they can trace the signature. And with the help of Nebula, they know the planet to go to. So, boom, all of a sudden, we're in a ship. We're 5 minutes into this movie, and, we're in a ship heading to deep space. Rocket making the joke about who hasn't been there. But there's this great moment where Captain Marvel's like, I'm going to go down and do recon. And she comes up, she's like, there is absolutely no satellites, no ground patrol. It's just him. So you're like, oh my God, 10 minutes in this movie and we're already going to face Thanos? This is going to be insane. Yeah. I love the scene too, like how he's cooking it out of nowhere. Everybody just rolls up on him. And that's a great, Hulkbuster coming out of the ground, everything. And then Thor just coming in right with, whoa, boom, arm right off. Even that, just the arm coming off. I was like, oh shit, it's getting real. And then the whole conversation, and the conversation itself, you realize he used the stones to destroy them, so they can't undo it. The beheading, oh shit, I screamed it in the theater the first time. I did not see that coming, dude. Because the moment he cuts his head off, you're like, what the hell is this movie about? Like, where do we go from here?
The idea is whatever the Russos did, they were like, F you, F your life, forget everything that you saw.
And the best part is, after he cuts his head off, Thor walks away defeated, screen fades to black, and so slowly the words just 5 years later pop up, and it cuts to Cap running the support group that you see there, which I didn't realize that was Joe Russo, as the gay guy being the first openly gay Marvel character. And you get to hear like the idea that like the Mets, there's no baseball, there's no like actual real life, and it's them trying to move on. I love that it's Cap being Cap, like still trying to do good. He has to do good
it's
somehow.
Not just that. He's doing what Sam did for him in Winter Soldier, which was this idea is like, even though he's been Captain America and he's been through all this stuff, he's still a guy, he's still a soldier, he's still trying to recover from the things that he's been through. And that was a call back to Winter Soldier for me when I saw that, because he's like, Sam's running a support group when he meets them.
And then you find out that they are still the Avengers. You know, Black Widow is now running the Avengers, and they're all off on different planets. I love the way that Captain Marvel wasn't heavily in it. Like, everything that's happening here is happening everywhere. It's like her and her short hair.
Yeah, her and her short hair is like, you and your new
She
haircut.
did not look good with that haircut.
No. I think they went to, I want to throw out here. Here's the little thing. When Okoye says there was an earthquake.
Namor, it wasn't just me.
Yeah, Namor, there was an earthquake in the ocean.
It's an earthquake under the ocean. We deal with it by not dealing with it.
Yeah. Under the ocean, and you're like,
there's no way that wasn't a Namor tease.
Yeah, so it's like the idea is, you know, that stuff is going forward, it's going to go down, but they got to solve this problem first.
So then we cut to San Francisco, where we get, you know, the most unexpected character here, Ant-Man. A rat saves the universe. A rat in a storage unit walks across the control board, activates the quantum tunnel, spits Scott Lang out, and there's like a nice little 5-minute sequence of him realizing what's happened. He sees his own name on the wall of the missing, goes home, realizes his daughter's all grown up. It's like this nice little scene. If you're ever going to take a bathroom break, that is the time to do it. I will say that much.
No, I did not want to, because it's like the idea is this is like for him, you know, and this is where I realized how much I got invested in the Ant-Man character, because of the fact that when he got to that point, you're like, oh crap, his daughter, and you're like,
stature.
Yeah, it's like
that's why she's grown up.
Just grown up, but it's even outside of that, it's just like his daughter is gone, and like all the stuff that in his arc through all the for both the movies, Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, he is doing everything to be a role model for his daughter. Everything he's ever been through as to that, and to lose her like that.
And take notes, people. Ant-Man is the comic relief in this movie, but it's not forced, because that's who his character always is. So it's these great dark moments. Like the whole time travel speech they have with Hulk, where they're listing off the movies, and the fact they listed Hot Tub Time Machine, one of my favorite movies. Hulk's like, where'd you get that idea? He's like, literally, Terminator, Time Cop, Hot Tub Time Machine, Back to any movie ever dealing with time travel. But then they go through the whole thing. I just love Ant-Man's line, do you mean to tell me Back to the Future is bullshit? Like, and that and Tony Stark, when they finally go to Tony to try to help come up with this plan to time travel, he looks right at him and goes, please tell me your plan's not based on Back to the Future. He's like, no, like lies to him. He goes, good, because that would be bullshit. Just this ridiculous moment. But then Tony just shuts him down. And can we talk about the fact when he goes, Morgan 8 Stark, get out here, and he has a daughter.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit. Like, this is a great moment. Tony's got his whole thing. But he's like, no, I'm not going to help you guys at all. Like, it's great to see you, but this isn't what I'm about. And I love this. Ant-Man has this whole thing. Oh, even before that, though, Tony Stark's meltdown on Cap when he gets rescued.
Yeah.
When he's like, I needed you, and you weren't there. Like, you said we'd lose together, and you weren't there. And he gives him the things, like, you take this and you put it on, you hide. Like, that whole meltdown is so key to this movie.
Because you also realize how emaciated Tony is at that time.
They made him look so good.
It was like, they made it like he is, because he's been out there, his body's been out there for 3 weeks, starving. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just like
paper football with Nebula.
Yeah, playing football with Nebula. That was like one of the most heartwarming parts of the movie. It's just like the idea is like she's starting to comprehend like the humanization of Nebula that you've seen, all the character arcs. We're gonna go to that, but
I honestly think the relationship she builds with Rhodey is one of the best in the movie. Like, they have that whole moment where she has to fix herself in front of him after getting the Power Stone. She burns her arm, and she's like, "I wasn't always like this," and he's like, "Neither was I, but we work with what we got." And it's that moment between them where it's like you see the friendship building. But who would have thought Nebula would have had such a key role in this movie?
Yeah. Well, they've been building that.
And Nebula is the one broken rule of time travel that I believe, and we'll get to that.
Oh,
Hey, Brian, I think I have a fix for it. I think I have a fix for it.
There's more than one broken
No,
portal.
but what I will say is I'm obsessed with time travel. Like, I've read so much about it. What Hulk says is what most physicists believe, that changing the past wouldn't change the future. It would create an alternate timeline, but the other timeline still
and that's
exists.
what the ancient one.
We'll get to that scene, because the way Bruce sciences her out of that is so brilliant, because you're taking arguably one of the smartest people in the universe, and then he's like, the science doesn't support that. But let's talk about Professor Hulk. So we find out after the events in Infinity War, he stopped looking at the Hulk as a disease, started looking at him as a cure, spent 1.5 years in a gamma lab, and was able to merge the two.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of Professor Hulk. Apparently there's a lot of people that don't like it.
Well, they were hoping, and here's where we set ourselves up. If everybody was hoping for World Breaker Hulk,
I was honestly for Soul Stone.
For the World Breaker Hulk, for a big battle scene, that's not what they wanted, because the idea is that again, they're paying off storylines that we are trying to figure out. Because the Hulk wasn't there when for Thor Ragnarok. Bruce Banner was not there.
I love that moment too. He goes, "You're the one that helped me with Thor." We'll get to that, but that you call him back to Ragnarok. But overall, I didn't like how small he was. I felt like he was a little bit too small to be the Hulk, especially when he goes back to New York. He's supposed to pretend to be the 2012 Hulk.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is so demeaning.
But I love the diner scene where the kids are taking the pictures and stuff. He's like, nobody knows who Ant-Man is. It's all right, don't worry about it. And but just the CGI on that was absolutely incredible. And another false marketing thing, whereas Infinity War, they showed us all Hulk scenes and you didn't get anything. Everything for Endgame was all Ruffalo as Banner. No Hulk stuff at all. And now you understand why. But he's only Banner when the Ancient One punches him out of the Hulk's body. That's it.
Yeah.
So needless to say, there's this moment where Tony Stark is just he's at home and you can tell it's kind of eating away at him. He sees the picture of him and Peter. And he goes through this idea, and it cuts to him in his lab, and he's just messing up with some stuff on the holographic screen. And then all of a sudden, he runs this test, and it's successful. And his reaction, the shock, falling down into the chair, shit. And then it has that great comic relief moment with the daughter being like, shit. I love that people didn't notice he pawns it off on Pepper. She can't say that word. That's Mommy's word. She coined it. She owns it. But just the interactions with him and his daughter were great, but he cracks time travel. And that's what's so great, because the next scene is Hulk trying to do the time travel with Ant-Man. You get him turning into a baby and an old man.
They turn into a baby.
And then it immediately cuts to Cap outside, what the fuck is wrong with these people? And then you just see the car speeding. Yeah. I love that Tony just pulls right up to him, rolls down the window, his exact line, he goes, "Why a long face?" Let me guess, he turned into a baby. And then Cap's among other things. And he gets out of the car, he goes, "Wow, that's really dangerous, brutal. Someone should have warned you against it." He's like, "You did." But you get to see them having that chemistry. It's the complete opposite of the last time we just saw them together. So needless to say, Tony's in, but he literally says to Cap right there, "I got to tell you my priorities. Bring back what we lost. Great. Lose what I found. I can't at all costs." So that's when you get this thought that the plan isn't just reset the snap. It's bring the people that were snapped out into this 5-year later timeline, which we'll get more to later. So the team is formed. They're like, okay, we need to get the whole team together. Cut to Hulk and Rocket going to New Asgard in the back. I love that little sit in the back of the truck scene and everything like that. To where we get the debut of Fat Thor, which I loved. And the idea that Korg, can we talk about the Korg Fortnite scene real quick? Oh, Thor, he's back. He's back. This kid, he just called me a dick. New Master 69. He goes, "Oh, he's back." And I just look, he says, "Hey, it's Thor, the God of Thunder," again. They've had a war with this dude. And then he hands it back to him. He goes, "Let me know if he bothers you again." He's like, "Thanks, cool, thanks." But I love that little Korg moment. "Go ahead, log into the Wi-Fi. No password, of course." And Meek made it to and can we talk about he uses Stormbreaker as a bottle opener?
Yeah, it's the idea. It's that everything you don't realize. This is where
they put Chris Hemsworth in a fat suit.
Well, here's the thing where I feel like Disney realized that they caught on to Thor magic was in Thor Ragnarok, because the first 2 movies were far too serious in terms of what you saw, and the fact that you get funny Thor, they started letting him be with Taika Waititi. They're like, we caught on to gold. This is what was missing.
But the thing is, it's believable too. He's not ridiculously obese. I love how big and puffy his arms got, but it's the depression. He failed twice and everything like that. And I love that Rocket even says at the beginning, he feels like he failed. He absolutely did, but there's a lot of that going around. And you also think about what he lost. Not only did he give up on killing Thanos because he went for the chest instead of the head, he already lost Asgard, lost half of his people to Thanos on the ship, then lost half of the ones remaining to the snap. So Asgard's a quarter of its population. But I love the idea that you get to see a god can even fall. And when Hulk tells him we have a chance to fix it, he's like, "Oh no, what, the cable?" He goes, "No, Thanos." And you see him break down don't say that name. And So I don't.
It's like we don't say that name around here.
Yeah, I love Korg, man. He's one of my favorite characters. And so, needless to say, though, they get him to come, and that's where it cuts to him with the sunglasses and the robe walking, and then on your left, Lebowski. Like the fact that Tony Stark called him Lebowski ruined the rest of the movie because I'll never be able to. Not, if you don't think that's gonna be one of the most popular cosplay mashups, is Lebowski Thor.
And not to mention that Jeff Bridges was in the original Iron Man. Just throw that out.
Because he even says it to his mom when she sees him, like in Asgard. She goes, "What are you wearing?" He goes, "What are you talking about? This is one of my favorites. I wear it all the time." And it's a bathrobe, so we have the whole team together. We're like, holy crap, it's going to happen. So now they need to test the time travel. And
Hawkeye is the one that we
Ronan, like, the whole, I honestly don't really care much about, like, them getting to him. Like, yeah, he's badass. You see him, like, rampaging through.
Well, even outside of that whole thing where it's like he is leaving a trail of bodies.
I like that he didn't get to see his family dusted, by the way.
No, and that's the whole point. Like, that is the thing we forgot to talk about. That is the first scene in the
Not
movie.
even the opening Marvel logo.
It's the Marvel logo. The first scene that you get in the movie is
him and Cassie.
Him as Cassie, which is one of the Russo's daughters.
And it's also, she grows up to be Hawkeye in the comics. She's got a pivotal role in one of my favorite stories ever, Old Man Logan.
Yeah. And the idea is you get to this point where it's his family, and he's just sitting there, and you see him out there with the arrow. He's got the anklet on.
And I'll say this for IMAX, I didn't notice it until I saw it in IMAX. On the regular screen, it's too poor quality to tell. You can actually see the dust from them when they piece out. But I didn't see that in the first time.
No, I did. You gave me IMAX tickets, so yes, I saw that.
So his family gets dusted, boom. Like, that's how the movie starts. And I love that he didn't see it happen. He just, like, what the hell is going on? And you see him start to put it together, like, when he's calling around, and then he gets real panicked real quick. Yeah. So needless to say, he's been killing everybody. And I love that Rhodey has that line, like, I honestly hope we don't catch him. And then Scarlett Johansson, one of the best moments in the movie, where she's got the tears in her eyes, like, please find out where he's going next, this and that, which calls back to Avengers, like, oh, are you in love with him? No, the love's for children. I owe him a debt, like I had read in my ledger. So it goes back to that whole thing. So they get Hawkeye, though, on the team, but I love that he volunteers to do the time travel test. So we realize that the Pym particles, they're going to plan a time heist, quote unquote. We'll get to that. But they got to test it first, and they only have enough for one test run and one round trip each.
And then he screws up. Scott screws it up.
Yeah, he screws it up. Like, so he gets too nervous. He's like, I can't. I love when he flips out on Hulk. You're being too hulky with that. We don't have any more of these. Like, this is all I love that little moment of, like, putting his foot down. So Hawkeye goes back, though, and it works. Like, he goes back to the cabin, and that was heartbreaking, too. The moment he gets to the door and hears it, and he calls for his daughter and gets sucked back right before she could see him. But that's a great scene where you realize, holy crap, this thing works. What are we going to do now? And then they need to find, so now the plan is in motion. All right, we know that we can do this. Let's figure out when and where to go get these stones, which is brilliant. I love that you get to figure out where they're doing it, and then Black Widow has that friggin' brilliant thing, because he's shitting. First of all, did nobody notice that they called Doctor Strange the Bleecker Street Magician? Then they called him the Baker Street Magician. Sherlock reference. But she goes, what kind of doctor was he? And he goes, ear, nose, and throat meets rabbit out of a hat. And then she has the line, you realize if you pick the right year, there's 3 Infinity Stones in New York. And then they have that, like, holy shit moment. And that's the instant I knew that our insider was right, that they were going back to Avengers 1. Yeah. So the time travel stuff gets in here. Teams are formed. We have Cap, Tony, Ant-Man, and Hulk go back to Avengers 1. Nebula and Rhodey go back to Guardians 1 on Morag. Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch go to Vormir. And then Cap has to go back to Avengers 1 as well, right? Battle in New York.
So go back to Vormir. So Scarlet.
Thor has to go to Asgard to get the ether.
Yeah, Thor and Rocket go to Asgard to get the ether. Go to the ether stone. They go. Cap.
Cap does go to New York. He just splits off.
Yeah, Cap. Iron Man.
He goes after the scepter.
And it goes after the scepter,
which can we talk about that? The elevator scenes. The moment the elevator scene happens, I'm like, oh my god, we're getting another elevator fight, right? Yeah. I was waiting for that. Does anyone want to step out before we get started? And it gets even better.
It goes. That Hail Hydra moment.
That was so great because it took the most controversial Captain America storyline ever in the comics and found a way to make it a joke. But it's such a great moment because those guys are like, holy shit, he's one of us too, and then just cuts to him walking out holding the scepter. I thought that was so brilliant.
Because they got the actors, they got Mark Ruffalo back, they got Frank Grillo back, they got everybody.
Did you not think that was going to end with another elevator fight?
I was like, oh god.
And then Cap fights himself.
Yeah.
Can we talk about America's ass?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing with the time travel is I've never seen a movie use it like this, where you're seeing the scene. Like most times, they'll just use the footage from the movie. You're seeing the scenes from Avengers 1, but from a different angle. The Hulk with the stairs, the whole we'll pose in front of him later, the whole Hall with Loki, like the whole Space Stone when they lose
it. Where you see him get his mouth.
Which now we know how Loki's Disney Plus show is going to exist, because Loki is no longer dead, because Loki pieced out with the Space Stone. Yeah. So he's off somewhere doing crazy stuff. But what were your thoughts on the New York portion of it, going back to Avengers 1?
So what was good for me, and for anybody who saw this movie, when they started doing the callbacks and recognizing where they started from.
Which we will get to. I have one that I figured out that no one else has put together yet, and we'll talk about that.
So when they started doing the callbacks, this is like, so when they're I'm looking for Stephen Strange. And it's like, and then you're
5 years too early. Yeah, so let's start there. So that's the thing. Hulk gets sent back to go get the Time Stone. Which, how cool is it that you find out that the Ancient One was part of the Battle of New York?
Yeah.
Like, protecting the Sanctum. Like, she didn't give a shit about anybody else.
But like, well, that's her job. The whole point is she's protecting the Sanctum. It's like...
But, like, they have this great conversation, which I love. Hulk acts like he's going to go and just take the stone from him, and she does the whole punch your soul out of your body thing. She's like, let's start again. But, so then they have this whole conversation. She's like, yeah, I can't give it to you because, create alternate timelines. And then he tries to be like, yeah, that won't happen. And I love that she does the demo. Like, she splits the line and explains that the Infinity Stones actually hold all of what we know as time together. So if she takes it, it creates an alternate timeline where they have no protection, so they're just screwed. So then Bruce, the genius that he is, literally says to the Ancient One, I'm sorry, but I don't believe the science supports that. And then explains to her that if they take the stones, use them to undo the snap, then use them again to return them to the exact moment they were taken in their timeline, nothing ever changes. And her whole line with that is, yeah, but in order for that to happen, you would have to survive. And that's where he makes the promise to her, I will. And she still says no. And he goes, she's like, it's my duty to protect us at all costs. And he goes, well, then why did Strange give it away? And she's like, what do you mean, willingly? And her whole demeanor changes instantly. He's like, did he make a mistake? And she goes, no, I did. And gives him the stone. Like, I love she has the line, Strange was meant to be the best of us, so that if he did this, there had to be a reason for it. So Hulk gets the Time Stone, which I have a problem with this. So Hulk I can understand. We'll get to Hawkeye. Hawkeye should not have been able to hold the Soul Stone. From what we know about Infinity Stones, anybody that isn't like a massively powerful being can't touch them. Guardians, they had to share it between the 5 of them.
Yeah, well, the idea is, like, I think the Soul Stone, because
it works differently. Red Skull says it.
Yeah,
but
Red Skull says that it works differently.
So this was my pitch, especially the way Hawkeye's family was. Do you not feel, because if you remember the scene, Hawkeye gets the Soul Stone, wakes up in the water, we'll cut to what happens before it, and then just looks around and then gets sucked back in time because everyone's coming back. I think it would have been such a much bigger thing if he wakes up, looks down, sees the Soul Stone, and then looks up and sees all the dusted people standing there, including his family and shit, and gets up to go toward his family and then gets sucked back as he sees everyone, and then knows, like, not only does this work and I got the stone, I saw them, like, they're alive somewhere. Like, I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. Not explaining Soul World at all was huge, and I still will always hate Marvel for not connecting it to Black Panther. To make it the Purple Heart Herb would have been the greatest connection ever, and it would have explained why Wakanda was so important. Would have explained why the Black Panther, why they went to Soul World when they like. It's the biggest missed opportunity ever.
It is the biggest missed opportunity, but even outside of that, for me, the big thing was this. I agree with you on that one, but that was something I did not see coming. I did not see that coming at all. It was a little it was like, why are you guys fighting? It's just like, she wants him to live, and again, it talks about the relationship, because you see it again. All the things that we see in this is payoff for things you have previously seen.
I love, because every time you think that they're going to figure something out, things go wrong. So let's talk about the first time it goes wrong. They go to get the Tesseract, they screw that up. Loki pieces out with it. They're like, oh my god, what the heck are we going to do?
Yeah.
So Hulk and Rocket are able to get the ether. So they get all the stones. They're like, oh my god, what are we going to do about the Tesseract? I love how they get the Power Stone, too, just knocking Peter Quill out. Like, just punch him cold.
He's like, he's an idiot.
But they have this moment, and this is where I've figured out something that no one else says. They're like, is there any other options we have for the Tesseract? And Tony comes up with the idea, like, we can go back further to get it. And he goes, yeah, but we don't have any Pym particles. And he's like, what if we could go back to a time where they were both there? And he's like, do you even remotely know that? And he goes, I have a very vague idea of a date, but I know how I know it. And that's what's key here. So boom, cuts to them going back to the 70s. You get to see the very first version of S.H.I.E.L.D. in New Jersey, where Hank Pym and Howard Stark are both there doing stuff. So the Tesseract is there by S.H.I.E.L.D. because Howard Stark had found it, and Hank Pym creates the Pym particles. So they go off on this mission. Tony has to go get the Tesseract. Captain America has to go get the Pym particles. We'll talk about Tony Stark in a minute, but Captain America, was great, he prank calls Hank Pym to get him out of the office, gets the Pym particles. But what's so big about that is why Tony says, I know how I know, is because Captain America taking those Pym particles is the whole event in Ant-Man 1 where Michael Douglas storms into the meeting, says they stole his particles, quits S.H.I.E.L.D. right then and there. Howard's like, I didn't touch it. That's how Tony knew when they were together. But it's crazy when you realize that Captain America taking those particles caused the split of Pym from S.H.I.E.L.D. that then creates everything. Like, that's that's to me as like Men in Black 3 when you find out that it was Jay's dad that saved Kay and then he neuralized young Jay and watched out for him this whole time. Like, it's crazy to me that connected, but I can't believe no one's put that together yet. That's how Tony knew the date, because it was a big deal when Pym and like, that split was huge. Can we talk about how no one in our theater clapped for things, including Ant-Man's giant helmet? Yeah. Can we talk, like, if you're a comic fan, there's so many Easter eggs here. There's a move in there that people don't even talk about in the very final battle.
The theater I saw it, they clapped.
I was so mad. Yeah, because you had my original tickets. Like I had the worst screening ever. But
I didn't have a silent theater.
So Captain America gets the Pym particles and he grabs extra, which is going to come into play later. But Tony, can we talk about this unexpected? He gets this unexpected moment with his dad, like multiple moments, but like. I thought it was going to be corny where dad was going to catch him and they were going to have a chase or some shit like that. But instead, it's the exact opposite. But they have this great conversation. You find out that, like, Howard's on his way home because his wife's pregnant with Tony and, like, he's doing all this work. But you get to see, Tony sees a side of his dad that he never saw before where he's nervous. He's like, I don't know what to do about this kid. Like, am I going to be right? But Tony says in Iron Man 2, he's like, my dad never said he loved me. He never even said he liked me. And then you get to see that video where he's like, my greatest creation's you. But now he actually gets to, like, interact with his father at this time, and he gets to see his father as, like, a regular guy. But there's this moment that I can't wait for the commentary for where they're in the elevator. I really swear it had to be improv. I've lost a father, so, like, there's multiple moments in this movie that relate to me. But when he's talking to his dad, he just blurts out, I have a little girl. And it's just, like, you can tell it's just a son wanting to let his dad know, like, I grew up and had a family, too. And then the idea that Howard gets fathering advice from his son, who is now a father. Like, it's that whole Man of Steel quote to me, like, the father becomes the son becomes the father. But there's this great moment where he hugs him at the end. He's like, thank you, and then for everything you've done for this country. But, like, Tony gets to have that moment with his dad, that closure, and that's when I really knew, like, what the fate of that character was going to be, that he had that. But, like, the fact that he just had, I don't know, man. Howard has that line, like, this kid's not even here yet, and there's already nothing I wouldn't do for him, which I really think that there's a part of Howard that knew Tony was Tony. Not like but like the way he says to Jarvis, like, does this guy look familiar and stuff like that? Yeah. He doesn't weird out when Tony hugs him, like.
Yeah, so he kind of weirds out, but even Jarvis. So if anybody didn't realize.
Which a comic, like, if you know in the comics, Jarvis was the Avengers Tower Butler.
But even outside of this, so if anybody didn't realize, or who never saw Agent Carter, that is the same actor from the Agent Carter series.
Let's talk about that real quick. When he's stealing the Pym particles, he has to hide in an office. Yeah. All of a sudden, he looks around, and there's a picture of young him on the desk. He looks back at the door, Margaret Carter. And then she comes in the office, and they have that face-to-face. And I was like, really? Are they going to do this to him again? He's going to get that close and still not be able to talk? Like, I was tormented by that. Yeah. So then he has to say goodbye to her, like, yet again without being able to do anything. And you're like, oh, this poor character. But Tony gets to have this great, fulfilling moment. So, boom, holy crap, we're successful. We got this stuff. Like, but where does it go wrong? The moment where I literally yelled holy shit in the theater is as Rhodey and Nebula are about to teleport back, Nebula shorts out, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And then it cuts to 2014 Nebula, and the projection happens where it's the conversation with her and Rhodey, and you're like, oh my god, 2014 Thanos is going to find out what's happening. When that happened, what did you, because you're like, we're just completely fucking with Marvel history
like,
here.
Yeah, it's like, you're like, oh my god. Oh no. And like you're like, wait, how does this gonna work? And then the idea is like, it's the idea, it's like, well, it's the same network, and you're like, oh
yeah, so Nebula gets captured, she doesn't get to return. Which then they swap her out, like with the evil Nebula. That was the moment where I'm like, oh no, what is gonna happen? Because they're not even gonna be remotely concerned with her, and they don't know her well enough to know that that's a fake her, even if they had any suspicions.
Well, it's like
there's no Gamora to be like that.
There's no Gamora, but even outside of that, Rocket wasn't around. Like the people that would be able to immediately identify.
But she's not even, because she stole the copper pieces from her.
But the like, there's something that they should have been able to tell, and she kept herself as like, well, they know this one, they know this version.
And like people don't understand the time, because they're like, oh, she has a time. First of all, Ebony Maw back, rejoice. And then, she has a timestamp from 9 years in the future. And people didn't understand that. This is 2014 Thanos, 9 years in the future, 2023, the 5 year later timeline, which that'll mess with you. So Neil said there's a big confrontation where Nebula from our time kills past Nebula, which I felt like that's the biggest broken rule because she should have faded away right then and there, like Looper style. The only way I can think around it is that she's so much more mechanical than organic at this point that the laws of time don't apply to that. But that would have been a great moment of her shooting her past self and then looking at like Gamora and having like this last one and then like fading out of existence.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is that it's not because they're both in the same timeline now. So the idea is if they went back, if they went back in time, that would have made a difference. But the fact that they're both in 2023.
So now we're in this situation where 2014 Thanos knows that he eventually wins. That's the other thing. He watches the video of his own beheading and he's like, destiny. Instead of like, what the fuck happened to me, man? Like he's just like, yep, I did it.
It's like, well, she's betrayed you. It's like, no, I haven't betrayed you.
It's like I always thought. I used to do a joke about the guy that dove off the balcony to catch a T-shirt and died. Yeah. Was probably in heaven, like, yeah, but I fucking caught it. Like, but he sees himself dying and everything like that, and you're like, oh my god. So boom, they get sucked back to the current time, which I love that it's only been seconds in our current timeline, which is even more heartbreaking when you look at Black Widow. Right, at least she looks at everybody all of a sudden. She's like, see you in a minute. No, you won't. No. So they get back, and you're like, there's still an hour left in this movie. They got the Infinity Stones. What are we gonna do? And then you see Tony put them together into the Stark Gauntlet, which we reported on a year ago. Can't wait to own that. Looks so friggin' cool. But then there's this moment where they're debating, like, who's going to wear it. And it's very important because there's a key line there where Thor says, if any of you guys tried to wear this, it would kill you. And then he tries to make himself, he's like, please, let me do something. And he has a breakdown moment. Let me do something good and right, please. Just let me do this. And he's like, dude, you're in no shape for this right now. And Hulk is like, has to be me. And Hulk puts on the gauntlet, and it starts burning him up instantly. And you're like, oh, my God, is he going to be able to do it? And then he finally, the snap happens, and you're like, oh, my God, did it work? And instantly, like, the doors open up. You see the birds coming back. I have a very big problem with the fact that the phone immediately started ringing, and it's Hawkeye's wife. She's back in a heartbeat with a cell phone, but yet the other Avengers, it took them like 20 more minutes.
Well, it's like the idea is like this. It's like, what the hell happened? Clint, where are you?
There's a joke in there about marriage.
Yeah,
like,
there's like, Clint, where the hell are you?
Why the hell does the newspaper say 2023? Who the hell mowed the lawn? Like, but just so boom. Oh my God, Hawkeye's wife is calling. And then there's this great moment where Ant-Man's looking out the window. He's like, oh my God, guys, I think it worked. And Hulk's all like messed up, laying on the ground. And you look up, and Nebula went to their time tunnel, hijacked it, and brought 2014 Thanos in his Q ship to Earth now. He destroys the Avengers facility, dude. I thought half of them died right then. I thought Ant-Man was dead because he got blown out.
Yeah, you were assuming that bad things were going to happen and very quickly.
Another thing, Lego spoiled that. I didn't believe that was real. The Lego set came out of the busted up Avengers facility. I'm like, toys got to stop spoiling stuff for this movie. Yeah. But let's talk about Black Widow. Hawkeye and Black Widow go to Vormir. And obviously we know you got to give up that which you love, which didn't even dawn on me till we got there. I'm like, oh, they're going to go get the Soul Stone. Cool. Didn't even realize, like, oh my God, there's two of them going. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, like, how good this movie does it, like, occupying your attention.
And why didn't Nebula tell? The only problem that's, like, plot hole for me was somebody had to, well, she didn't know, but.
Yeah, but like, so they figure out, oh my God, someone's got to die. I love that they have this big moment where they're like debating who it's going to be. And dude, they kept you guessing until the very end. I thought it would have been Hawkeye because it would have been like the whole my family, like I can never undo what I've done here and this and that. And then, dude, the fact that they keep fighting it out, like did you honestly know who it was going to be until it happened? Because, like, she goes to jump, and he fucking hits her with the arrow. Then she hits him with the friggin' blaster, and then he gets airborne. Like, he jumps up, and she straight, like, tackles him, like NFL Blitz, like, no. But then fires the friggin' grappling gun into it. He gets it and then can't hold the weight, and she does that whole, like, let herself go. But I love that when she hits and dies, the blood is meant to look like her red hair flowing out, which is really, really cool. But what were your thoughts on that whole sacrifice? That was a death that was unexpected.
That was a death.
Especially when you know she's getting a solo.
Yeah, that was a death that I was not expecting at all. Like, the idea of people that I was expecting to go in the film or contracts that were up or people that you're going to retire for a little while, that was one I did not see coming at all.
And that's the one down. Everyone gets back and like, oh my God, this worked. We have the stones. And they realize she's dead. And I love this great moment with Thor, where they're like, does she have any family? And Cap's like, yeah, us. And Thor's like, why are you guys talking about her? Like, she's dead. We had the stones. Like, she's not dead. And then you hear Hawkeye like, it can't be undone. This will happen. I love Thor says to him, he goes, no offense, but you're very earthly. And we're talking about space magic and can't seem very definitive. And he goes, well, that's what the floating guy with the red face told me. You go find him. You go get your hammer and you go talk to him. But like, he has that breakdown. Like, it can't be undone.
But even outside of like the thing is that Professor Hulk has to process that. That's one of the other sad things is you never get the Hulk and Natasha moment.
But that does explain why Hulk gets fried by the gauntlet, is because he tried to go back and get Natasha, which you find out at the end of the movie, which is what fried him up.
Yeah, it was like
because people were asking, because there's another person that wears the gauntlet at the end of the movie that doesn't get fried instantly the way Hulk did. It's because Hulk's first thing he was trying to do was go back and get her.
Yeah.
So, like needless to say, so Black Widow's dead. We had the gauntlet. Hulk snapped. Boom. But then Avengers facility is blown up. At that point, I'm like, what the hell are we? They've already used the gauntlet. Like, as far as I know, you got one more use out of that thing. What did you think was going to happen? That when the Avengers facility blows up, right after they succeed, what are your first thoughts?
Well, the whole point is, it's like, what the hell is going to happen?
And it's not a slight bombing. Like,
it's not a slight bombing. No. That is, you're talking about scorched earth.
Like if Ant-Man didn't shrink, he would have been eviscerated.
Yeah, like the fact, like the moment the moment is like super terrifying for everybody because Rocket, Rhodey, and Hulk.
Which can we talk about that for a second? Hulk holding up a mountain with one arm.
Or he's holding up the building. He's holding
up the whole mountain.
He was holding up the building with one arm as much as he could possibly.
Rhodey suit gets trashed. He has to get out of his suit. His leg braces aren't working. He's got to drag himself over to Rocket, who's being crushed by the rocks. Then as soon as they get each other out, they get flooded by what you're like. Holy shit! And it's Rocket, Rhodey, and Hulk. So you're like, oh my god, they're gonna die. Like they even had that line where it says, "See you on the other side."
Like,
and then who comes to save him of all people?
Ant-Man. And it's the idea is that Ant-Man comes to save them, and then you see Hawkeye, who realizes like, where the hell am I?
And that's when hide and seek with the gauntlet begins. But the bigger thing about Ant-Man, what was so cool and like even more dire about that, is he could hear their radio, but they couldn't hear him. Like his comms were out, so he's trying to be like, "I'm coming, God!" Dude, it gets great. So this is where we start what I will say is the greatest battle ever filmed. We're hours away from Game of Thrones Battle of Winterfell. I honestly don't think there's any way that they can touch it because I'm a comic fan. Because there's so many comic book moments in that final battle that you can't even talk about, let alone, if you, like I said, if you've watched the 21 Marvel movies, this is the greatest payoff in cinema history. I should have walked out of a 3-hour movie with multiple plot holes, character development issues, pacing issues. I don't feel like there's a single minute that should have been cut out of this movie. But this final battle, everyone's like, oh, the first hour is slow, and it's this and that. It's like, dude, Infinity War was all battles. You needed to take this slow for the consequences. This final battle pays it off. We get everybody, but it looks real dire. So, boom, Avengers facility's blown up. Nebula and Thanos come. Thanos plops his sword in the front and just sits there. It's like, I'm just going to wait. I love there's this great moment where it cuts to Thor just looking from the wreckage, just arms crossed, just watching him. And Captain
Iron Man come over, like, what's he doing?
Can we talk about the line with the shield? He goes, you lose this again, I'm keeping it. But when he first gives it back to Cap, I got to get it out of the garage and Morgan's going to take it sledding. But so boom, then we get the shot I wanted from the trailer, the Trinity walking up, which first of all, I understand Thor's powers. Watch this when we go again. When he calls Stormbreaker and Mimir, the lightning braids his beard.
Yeah, I know.
How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, it's the idea. No, because the whole point is it's throughout when he calls upon the hammer, he gets his arm.
Which that's a huge thing when he goes back to Ragnarok and takes the hammer. He has that moment like, holy crap, I'm still worthy.
Yeah, it's the idea is like because Stormbreaker is one thing, but Mjolnir was the thing that justified him forever.
Right.
And the idea, so when he called out to it, and it's like and Rocket's like, what is he doing?
It takes a second.
And it's like, don't worry, usually takes a second. He's like,
but
boom.
his shock when it lands,
it lands on his hands, and he's like, I'm still worth. And then it was that moment for
that moment when his mom was so great when she's like, she calls it, he's like, I'm not from the future, and then he breaks it, I'm totally from the future. I need to talk to you.
Because it's like, like that, and it pays off for like all
Ragnarok or Thor: Dark World, which is arguably the worst MCU movie.
It's like Thor: The Dark World, where you're saying it's like dark elves, and he go into it because they keep repeating.
Someone said it's a stone. It's not a stone. First of all, it's more like an angry sludge. So you need to classify that. Like I love they do that whole like Ocean's 11, like give us the intel, and Thor they cut to him and they're like, is he dead? Is he sleeping? Or he's got the sunglasses and he's just not moving. Like that's there's this great movie called like Into the Wilderness or something like that with Steve Zahn where Justin Long tattoos eyeballs on his eyes so he can sleep. That's what that reminded me of. But like, is he dead? And then he like has to like wake himself up to give the presentation. And then like, that's all right, buddy. That's all right. You want some breakfast? He goes, I'd like a Bloody Mary. Just like Thor at the end of his day.
But that is one of the great like.
He's Fat Thor at the end. Like when he summons both and he gets his armor back, he's still Fat Thor.
He's still Fat Thor. And the idea here is this entire scene is where you see Iron Man Thor is like he's not doing anything, but
they're shocked. Like Cap's like, what happened? And then Tony has the line like, you mess with time, it tends to mess back. You'll see. And then they say like, this is a trap, right? And he goes, yeah, but I don't much care. And then Thor goes, good, just wanted to make sure we're wearing. That's when he summons both. Let's talk about that scene of him wielding both for the first time. How friggin' cool was that? So then the battle starts, and then it gets real. Thanos' armies get unleashed, like these creatures. Ships are coming in from everywhere. The giant creatures from Avengers, you see.
You get the Chari deck, you get the Outriders, his Thanos' Outriders.
Basically, you get Tony's vision from Age of Ultron starting to come true.
Yeah, and Age of Ultron is starting to come
to the point that even the broken shield.
Yeah. And so all of this is coming down, and it's like, and you think it is about, it's like.
And then there's this moment where like Thanos is beasting on, or Thor's beasting on Thanos, and then Thanos flips him and gets him. He's about to drive Stormbreaker into his chest, and all of a sudden you see Mirror start to float, and you're like, oh, he's summoning him, and he's gonna beast him. Slams Thanos in the head, but then instead of going to Thor's arm, whoop, and Captain America wields Mirror. And the next 30 seconds are arguably the best of that movie, where he goes one-on-one Mortal Kombat style with Thanos with his shield and the hammer. Tell me that was
awesome.
Comic book
but
porn.
Even outside of that, it's Thor's reaction. It's like, I
knew it. That was the thing. But you're like, oh wow, he can wield the hammer, and then he summons the lightning, and you're like, he's got a. Like it's this moment, and what I think of why he couldn't lift it in Ultron is because he hadn't come clean to Tony about Winter Soldier killing his parents. That's why he wasn't worthy yet. But how friggin' cool was that movie? Our theater was silent. I lost my mind.
Yeah, no, that was, and my theater was not. This is where again.
The only moment that I cheered louder for happens about 2 minutes later. And that's when all of a sudden it looks so dire. Thanos reverses the roles, beats Cap, breaks his shields, got him down and bloody. It's looking so awful. You see everything closing in. You're like, oh my God, what is going to happen here? And then all of a sudden, the sling ring circle starts opening, and Black Panther, Shuri, and Okoye come walking through silent. They don't even say a word. They just look at him.
Well,
like,
it's not even that. It's even before that. You hear Sam, Cap. On your
that's
left.
the thing. So can we talk about that? So that's what happens. So Cap stands up and he does that scene where you see him strap the shield, and he goes like this. And all of a sudden, you just hear real quick. It's 3 lines. You go, Cap. That first one, I was like, oh my God, that's Falcon. And then you hear Cap come in. And that's when I really knew it. And then Cap come in as Sam on your left. And then the sling ring circle open. Doctor Strange, the Guardian, Spider-Man. And then sling ring circles open everywhere. And every Marvel hero, Valkyrie on a Pegasus comes riding through. Pepper in the rescue armor. Like, it is on. We have a full army. And that's when Captain America coughs back, Avengers! Assemble. I ran out of the theater, dude. I ran out of the theater. I have waited 21 movies to hear that. That's one thing from the Avengers comics I love, and the way he did it, like so gritty and everything. And then they charge, and it is on. So there's really 2 fights going on. There's like the whole main battle against all of Thanos' people, and then there's the whole try to get the gauntlet away from Thanos and this and that, which leads to great scenes of like individual heroes taking it. Like when it looks like Hawkeye doesn't know what to do, and then friggin' Black Panther takes it, and then Black Panther starts getting caught up, and Spider-Man grabs it. Like,
here, the other thing I was assuming was Black Panther, because Black Panther's another character who has wielded the gauntlet in the comics.
I thought it was, and can we talk about how cool it is? As he's running, everyone's shooting at him. It's just charging his suit more.
It's like boom. It's like, I'm taking you out, and it's just.
But then Spider-Man gets his reunion with Tony Stark, and this is where I kind of have a problem with stuff, because he says to him, and this is verbatim because I've seen it 4 times now, Mr. Stark, do you remember we were in space and I got all dusty? Well, I must have passed out because I woke up and Doctor Strange was like, it's been 5 years, they need us, and he started doing that yellow sparkly thing that he does, and now I'm here. Like, and then Tony just grabs him and hugs him and says this moment. But I don't like the idea that like they weren't in Soul World or anything like that. They just think they passed out and fell asleep, which is going to be real weird and Far From Home. And like, did Aunt May get dusted? Because she didn't look like she aged at the funeral scene.
Who knows?
But
it's MacGuffin. It's whatever plot.
To my problems with Captain Marvel, where it was like over feminist, like they call it a cockpit for a reason. We get arguably the greatest comic book tease ever in this, which is the A-Force, which for those of you who don't know, it's a fairly new comic. It's all female Avengers. But there's this scene where like Peter Parker is being surrounded. He's got the gauntlet, and Captain Marvel makes her return, flying through the Q ship.
The whole thing was this: is like the moment you hear something, it's like
they fired into the outer atmosphere. And I'm like, is he taking out the moon? That's what I thought. He's going to shoot the moon.
It was like bombard, but our own men. And then all of a sudden it's like this. It's like
because he's about to get killed by Scarlet Witch.
It's like you're about to get killed by Scarlet Witch, but even outside of that, after that scene is over, and they're like their guns are turning. It's like, why did the guns start shooting? They're shooting into space.
Well, can we talk about it? Like Scarlet Witch lands, and she's like, "You took everything from me." He's like, "I don't even know you," and she goes, "You will," and then just starts ripping his armor apart. And like, oh my God, he's gonna kill it. So then he's like, fire everything down, but they fire out first, and I'm like, oh, he's got a thing for moons. Like he's gonna kill our moons. And then I'm like, he's gonna shoot. Nope, it's Captain Marvel. But she flies down to Peter Parker. He's like, hi, I'm Peter Parker. She's like, hi, Peter Parker. You got something for me? And he says to her, like, I don't know how you're going to get through all that alone. And that's when Okoye and everyone, she's not alone. And every female event, Wasp, everybody, which it's so sad that Black Widow, the first female Avenger, isn't there for that. But then you get this badass female Avengers scene, which has a comic book combo that people don't know from the A-Force. I actually love it. So Pepper and Valkyrie are swinging Peter with the gauntlet. Valkyrie's horse is called Salt. Yeah. It's called the Salt and Pepper Shaker when they do that move there. But like that was so cool, like Pepper coming in the rescue arm, and they had that back to back with her and Tony fighting, like how Rocket and Winter Soldier had it. How cool was that seeing them fight together in the armor?
that was a good scene because the idea is this is like you see Valkyrie, which was nice to see because she's just like
Valkyrie on her like full battle armor Pegasus, like
it's like they're there to do their stuff. You have Ant-Man, you have Wasp, you have they have Shuri. I'm trying to figure out how they imagine like.
So I will say this. So someone told me when we go see it tonight, when that battle starts, instead of focusing on the center, watch the left and right. They said there's so many combos and character fights that you don't even notice the first couple times to watch that. But this battle, screw Lord of the Rings, screw Game of Thrones, like it is so all out. It is insane. And then every character gets these huge moments in the battle, which is really, really cool. But things start to get crazy because oh no, the gauntlet gets close. Thanos looks like he's going to get the gauntlet. What are we going to do? There's this big fight with him and Captain Marvel. He gets the gauntlet on. He's about to snap. Captain Marvel grabs and starts. She looked like she was going to break his fingers off, which he goes to headbutt her and she just takes it. Like, how cool was that? You get to see how strong she really is.
He's like, yeah. She's like, whatever. And then he has to pull the Power Stone
and he
out.
punches her in the face with the Power Stone, which I don't care who you are. That is a fucking Hadouken, right there.
Like,
so she goes down.
Because he's like, oh, I've got to get rid of it. He's like...
Which that I found out is how Tony gets the idea next. So, boom, things are going down. The gauntlet gets ripped off of him. There's this scramble. Doctor Strange and Tony have this moment where he goes, you said 14 million and one of them we win. Is this it? And Doctor Strange tells him, if I tell you what will happen, it won't happen. But then when there's that gauntlet, Tony looks over at Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange holds up the one. And that's when you realize what's about to happen. And Tony and Thanos go for the gauntlet at the same time. Thanos gets it away from him, puts it on, looks right at Tony and goes, I told you, I am inevitable, and snaps. And you're like, oh my God. And then it's an empty snap. And Thanos turns the gauntlet and the stones are gone. And you're just like, oh no. And it cuts to Tony and the stones are forming in his gauntlet. And our theater clapped for that. And I literally yelled at them like, don't clap for that. And he goes, you may be inevitable, but I am Iron Man, and snaps. And you're just like, no. And then all of a sudden Thanos gets to watch what he did in Infinity War. Everybody in his crew gets dusted and he gets left for last and doesn't have like a villain speech or anything, just sits there defeated and dusts out. And it's like this happy moment, like, oh, they're gone. And then it immediately cuts back to Tony, who is just fried. Like, it breaks my heart. Like, you know he's dead. So he falls down to the ground, just melted, and Rhodey lands right in front of him and, like, has a moment. And then Peter breaks it. Mr. Stark, we won. You did it. Like, this and that. And I love that Pepper pushes him to the side. And this is what breaks me every time. Pepper, who I didn't really like Gwyneth Paltrow that much throughout the series, delivers in this. She just looks right at Tony. She says, Friday, and Friday says, like, life functions critical. And she looks at Tony, and you see Tony worried. Like, there's this worried look on his face. And she looks at him, and she says, Tony, look at me. It's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And I know she's talking about her and the daughter right there. But then she says to him, you can rest now. Mm-hmm. And it's just like giving him permission to die. And then and then the arc reactor fades out, and Tony Stark is dead. And I was an emotional wreck. Like, the way he went out is noble. I'm glad that, like, the people that loved him most were there and everything else like that. But then, as if that wasn't bad enough, there's an even more tear-jerking moment at the funeral, which I know we'll talk about the funeral in a second, but we have to talk about it. At the very end, it's his daughter sitting there at the funeral, and Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau, sitting there talking to him. He goes, is there anything I can get you right now? And she goes, I want a cheeseburger. And he just has this moment where he breaks, and he looks right at her, and he goes, you know, your dad liked cheeseburgers. I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. And he breaks. And, like, it's a callback to his very first line in the movie. It's a callback to Iron Man 1, and it's just, like, it's so heartbreaking. Like, he can't do anything for this little girl in this moment except get her cheeseburgers. And, like, the way his voice breaks saying it, though. And then Pepper with the floor reef of the proof Tony Stark has a heart, the version 1 arc reactor. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Tony dying? Like, if it had to happen, which we thought it would, I would have preferred him and Cap and maybe even Thor share the power of the gauntlet and go out together.
I don't think, because it would always...
I thought you set up the MCU, because then, like, you can immortalize them. New Avengers can make these are the guys that paved the way. The world has a hero. Like,
the world has a hero, but the idea is it always goes back to the idea of what Tony was afraid of in the first movie. In the first movie, the second movie was dying, and the third movie was always about his mortality.
It's so poetic.
And it's like, and like in the Avengers, the idea is that he said, Cap was like, you're not the guy to jump on a grenade and take the bullet.
It falls back to that.
Always falls back to that.
I like this. There's a great parallel here that I don't think anyone else has put together. That Captain America started with a sacrifice and ends with him getting to have his life. Iron Man ends with him having this great life and ends with him making the final sacrifice. But like, I just feel like him using the gauntlet alone was kind of a waste. I'm like, if you're
no, because it was perfect because he knew whatever he saw in whatever was plaguing him, which now what I enjoy again callback because Iron Man 3 was not meant to be part of the story.
I liked Iron Man 3. People hate on it.
No, not that it was hated, but like Disney at the time before they said they were like that's not part of it, and then they were able to throw some things in there, but they understood at the end of the movie that was a key scene because he kept seeing that.
Well, that's why like Pepper telling him he can rest breaks me because at the beginning of the movie when he cracks time travel, he was like, I feel like I could just put this in a lockbox and dump it in the bottom of the lake and go to bed. And Pepper says to him, yeah, but would you be able to rest? Yeah. So then they tell him like you can rest now is okay, but like it just breaks me that like Cap honestly, yeah, we get to see him get his happy ending, but he's got a daughter, man. Like, you left that daughter behind. That's what kills. It's like I said, somebody that's lost a parent, that scene just breaks me so much. And, like, that's why Peter, even just telling him, like, we won. You did it. Like, we're going to be okay. You did it. Like, Black Widow didn't get to know they won. Like, Hawkeye has that line, like, I wish she knew. The fact that Tony got to go out knowing that he did it, but people don't realize, like, all Tony Snap did was dust Thanos and his army. Like, he went out just to eliminate them. But that's why Doctor Strange couldn't tell him, because if he told him he was going to die, he would second-guess himself, obviously. Yeah. Like, do I want to do this and that? But it's such an in-the-moment thing that it doesn't feel like, oh, my God, it's inevitable. Once you watch the movie a second time, you see the stuff with his father, and it's like, yeah, they're clearly setting it up. And even Tony knew he was going to die, because we find out at the funeral he recorded a hologram message, which I have very sneaky suspicion about that. Don't you find it very awkward at the very end when he says, I love you 3,000 to Morgan, he's looking right at Morgan? How the heck could he know where she was going to be seated? Like, what I hope personally, because I know Robert Downey Jr. is done, but in the comics, he uploads his consciousness to an AI. I'm hoping he's going to be the AI in Spider-Man's suit going forward. Maybe. That's a great way to like keep Robert. That's what hurts me so much. Is I honestly feel like I lost a friend with Tony Stark because
again 21 movies and 11 years of investment.
He made me a Marvel fan. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, like I was never a Marvel Comics fan. I came into Marvel Comics in the Civil War storyline, issue 2. Iron Man 1 came out a year later. That was my like, oh my God, they're gonna build the Civil War when I saw that I Am Iron Man moment. But like Robert Downey Jr. was what got me into Marvel Comics and made me a fan of these movies. And he's such the connective tissue. Like, I understand why they killed him, and it's this great noble death, but it literally, like, I've not mourned that hard for a fictional character before. Like, it breaks me watching Pepper tell him that he can die. Like, the way that he went out is just like that pure impulse decision is insane to me. Like, this movie has such emotional weight. That's why I think it's like this worldwide phenomenon. It's like, yeah, it's a superhero movie, but it's real world emotion and consequences just in a fictional setting.
Yeah, and it's the idea that it's this is what the Russos did, which is why I enjoyed what they did, because
they shouldn't have been able to pull this off, though.
It's like
there's no holes.
No, well, they shot it back to back, and you got to think that.
But still, like, this is a deep story. There's so many moving parts.
The idea is like, here's for me what I thought at the end, even with the Cap stuff.
We'll get to that in a minute. We're still not at that.
It's still that again. The callbacks and where they brought you back to, the things that you thought you saw in a film that you're like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. No, they bring it back.
And then Tony's funeral is shot like a comic book. Every major character in the Marvel Universe is there to mourn, and it cuts to them in their individual groups. Yeah. Even Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are there with Scott and Hope. But it's this great moment where then it just cuts to, like, Captain America has to go return the Infinity Stones and Thor's hammer. So he's like this and that, but it's like he's saying his body, like, oh, he'll be back in 5 seconds. But he looks at Bucky, and Bucky says to him, I'm going to miss you. And you're like, what the hell? Is he up to something, this and that? And he goes, don't do something stupid. You're taking all the stupid with you, that callback line. Yeah. But then he's like, don't worry, Cap will take as long as he needs. We'll bring him back in 5 seconds. And they try to bring him back, and he doesn't come back. And you're like, what? And then very Back to the Future 3-ish with the whole Western Union letter, they look over, and there's an old man sitting on a bench. And, Bucky and Sam walk over, and Sam goes first, and it's old man Cap. Yeah. And they're like, what happened? Did something go right or wrong? And he goes, I returned the stones and figured I'd get a taste of that life Tony was always telling me about. And then you realize he's wearing a wedding ring. Yeah. I love that Sam says to him, do you want to tell me about the girl? And he's like, no, I don't think I will. And then he pulls out a repaired version of his shield and hands it to Falcon. eventually making him the new Captain America, which I always thought it was going to be Bucky, because he says to him, how's it feel? And he goes, feels like it belongs to someone else. I felt like he was going to take it off and toss it to Bucky right then.
Yeah.
Which that also sets up their Disney Plus show, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I have a strong suspicion is going to be renamed Captain America and the Winter Soldier about him. But what were your thoughts? So you find out Cap, after he returned the stones, went and lived a life in the 50s. The final shot of the movie cuts in on a house, and you hear music playing, and then it cuts in even closer, and it's him and Peggy Carter dancing. He got his dance, and it ends with a kiss, and then credits roll. That is a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he got his dance.
Yeah.
Because you remember, like, that's the biggest thing in Captain America 1 when he goes down, but his Scarlet Witch vision was being in the dance hall with her and still not getting
it. It's the
it.
idea that so the continuity director is the hero of this film for me. Because the Russos, with all the stuff...
That's obviously the secret husband she mentions in Civil War, guys. Like, people have a problem with it. Like, oh, he messed with the timeline. I'm like, no, they just kept it secret because she still had to go on to create S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything else like that.
As the idea is that he had to stay hidden for all this time and all this stuff so that it was happening. For like him, like for them, they just lost him 5 seconds ago, but he has lived over like... Which
I didn't think Cap could age, so that was pretty cool to see him as an old man. But I love this idea that Captain America, who had always put everyone else first, finally decided to take something for himself. Like, I'm going to have this life.
Yeah, and it's the same thing where
I think if Tony doesn't die, he doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, Tony doesn't die, he doesn't do that, but even as they're going at opposite ends because he was willing to make the sacrifice while Tony was willing to be selfish for himself. And there's that moment. Yes, Cap, fulfilled the mission and did what he had to do.
And then the Stan Lee cameo, we love. We got old school 70s anti-war person Stan Lee. But then, like, the movie ends, and the first Marvel movie did not have a post-credit scene, which people didn't want to believe. But I'm like, it's fitting.
It's fitting because
if they were going to do it, you would have to set up Fantastic Four, X-Men. Anything else would be a waste.
Yeah, and if you don't, and if they're not prepared to, so for me, I was hoping for and I told Chuck because like the whole scene where Wong at the big battle scene is like, do you think we have enough people? It's like, what, you don't?
Who else could we get? All of Wakanda is here.
It's like, who else do you think? And I'm like,
dude, I wouldn't be surprised if Daryl from the Civil War thing was in there with like a battle axe. Like everyone was there.
And it's like everybody who was in this film, like understanding as much as I wanted to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four come in here. When I came out of that movie, I realized it was.
I take that back. Yeah,
I take it back because the idea here is this: for whatever Marvel is going to build next, it has to be. They have to build to that because
Comic-Con's going to be real interesting.
Yeah, Comic-Con is going to be super interesting, but it's the idea that they have to build for this, and they do. Disney's plan. Outside of Spider-Man, which was a quick, easy thing to get into.
Which now, everyone was like, why is Spider-Man Far From Home the last Phase 3 movie and not Endgame? Because even though this movie ends on like a somewhat happy note, we're in a very different MCU now. First of all, it's the year 2023. They're no longer concurrent with our timeline. And second of all, there's half the world that just thinks they've been gone for a minute and the other half is moved. Couples that have moved on. There's got like all kinds of crazy implications here. Think about twins. Like, my twin sister's 5 years older than me now, but like these whole people that have mourned and like moved on with their lives. And then Far From Home, clearly his whole class had to have been dusted. It's the only way they're all the same age. Yeah. But like that would be really interesting to play within a world where they've been gone for five. Spider-Man's been gone for 5 years. Like
for 5 years. Watches out of the neighborhood. It's like this. It's like what has happened.
And I love that it answers the whole thing of like, oh, is it going to be a prequel? Because you see Maria Hill and Nick Fury returned at the end, and they're in Far From Home. So people are like, it must be a prequel. I'm like, no, it's not. They told you before Infinity War ever came out that Far From Home would take place 5 minutes after Endgame ended. Endgame ends with Peter back in school looking at Ned, and like they're reunited. It's going to pick up right there. I have the feeling everyone on the bus got dusted that he's on an Infinity War. Yeah. Because I think they're going to the field trip at that point. That's where the bus is to, and then
they said it wasn't to that because they said it wasn't going to the field trip. They confirmed. I think Kevin Feige of the Russos says it's not the field trip from Far From Home. They were coming from a museum in Manhattan.
And you should have known it wasn't a prequel because in the Far From Home trailer they black out the year on his passport. Yeah. Because it's 2023 now. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on like the MCU? That's a very, very big thing they're going to have to figure out.
And so, but understanding with all the things that they've done. There are things that we're going to start seeing over the next few years.
Do you think we ever get another Avengers? If they do, I think it's new Avengers.
No, it's not. I think we're going to get. I think we're going to get old. I think the next thing they're going to build up to is, as far as an Avengers cross, we are going to get another Avengers movie. But I
don't think it's going to be a long time.
It's going to be a while because I think what they're going to do now is with the IPs that they have back. With the IPs that they have back, we know that we're going to get Doctor Strange 2 and Black
The Eternals has been confirmed.
The Eternals.
We already have our first two castings. Yeah. Angelina Jolie as Cersei and Kumail Nanjiani as the lead.
Okay.
And then Shang-Chi starts rolling next month in Australia. That's one that I think people are going to be sleeping on. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, now with Thor joining the team,
Thor
which
joining-
excites me
Yeah.
like crazy. And then Star-Lord's looking for Gamora. What's your theory on Gamora? I think Gamora got dusted. I think that version of Gamora got dusted
No.
because Tony had no way to know she had turned good.
No, well, the idea is, I think
It's Tony that chose who dusted. He
Yeah.
dusted anyone with Thanos.
Yeah, but it was like the idea. Like, I don't think she got dusted.
Well, he's searching for her.
He's
so.
searching. He's searching for her. But the idea, I think, what is going to happen going forward here is this: we do not know. Now, I am going to say this because we were prophesying doom and gloom for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when James got this. With the end of this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to be.
Well, that was the thing too. Like, you knew Cap was done. Chris Evans was like, "Yeah, my contract's done." You had a feeling Robert Downey was going to be done. But Chris Hemsworth kept saying, "Well, if they can find new ways to do something with the character, I'm all in it." Because Ragnarok completely brought him around on the character. And first of all, can we talk about his comedic timing has gotten incredible? Like the whole they know who's in charge. Like, of course you are. Of course you are.
Yeah, because the whole point is like the whole point was, and this came out of Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters movie, is that people are like
He was the best part.
You know, like no, he was like they're like. He is seriously funny.
But like Ragnarok, you got to see a little more of it, but like he really perfected it.
Like it was like he really perfected being funny, like taking that.
Just the scene where, like, before he does the rally show where they think he's dead, like where you think he's sleeping, where they're talking to him. Just remaining motionless.
It's it's that idea of like it's like child of family. Like you see that he has become the character Thor is serious yet a lighthearted thing because he's kind of not oafish. Is like not he's kind of it's simple but like he's noble but simple,
and it's a new Thor too because he lets Valkyrie be the new ruler of New Asgard and he says, "I'm done being who I'm supposed to be, I'm going to be who I am," which is like the thing from his mom. But I love that he even refers to them as the Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is a currently running comic. But I love that power to him. But like I had no urge to see Guardians 3. I'll be totally honest. Guardians 2 was a big turn off for me. I was like, if they're doing the Sylvester Stallone team, I'll see that. Now with Thor, I'm all about it. Thor and Searching for Gamora, I'm all about that.
Because it's like your Star Trek 3.
But like Thor, like, and it gives me a reason to care about his character more. And I love that he's still fat Thor, like fat bearded Thor.
Yeah, well.
Which how about misdirection in the marketing?
Yeah. Oh no, you again. There.
You were wrong though. Hulk and Wakanda didn't happen.
No, I was wrong.
When the time travel, I'm like, oh, Robert's right. He's in the theater somewhere screaming.
It's like no, it's like, and I was glad I was wrong because the whole point was this: is like if you're gonna the moment that Tony said. I want to bring back what we lost, but I don't want to lose what I've gained.
Which is huge. So, as we wrap up, top 3 serious moments, top 3 comedic moments. Comedic for me is the Build-A-Bear rocket line, the whole time travel breakdown with the movies, and then the Hulk stairs stuff from Avengers. Hulk hates stairs, because then Tony takes the door to the face from Hulk, and that's how Loki gets. That scene is hilarious, because he's messy. He's like, I just took the Hulk to the head. But he still returns, I'll meet you for a beer, and this, that, and then that door just smokes him. Like, I actually thought he was dead for a second.
Yeah, it's like...
And then top 3 serious moments have to be Tony with his daughter, like just the whole like goodbye message and stuff like that. Tony dying, and then for me it was Hulk's reaction to Black Widow. Yeah, because it breaks like his face just whole change.
Because it's the idea is like because like people who it's like for time has a way of messing back. Is the idea is they can't have their moment, and you know they've been.
Oh. We didn't even touch on Thanos, 2014 Thanos, once he realizes what he wants, changes his plan. I'm not going to wipe out half of you because there's always going to be people that can't move on. So then he decides, I'm going to take this gauntlet, and that's what's even more important. I'm going to snap you all out of existence and then use it again to rebuild, and it'll be people that have never known what they've lost, only what they've been given. That's crazy. Like, you get to see, like, this totally different Thanos. But top 3 serious moments for me, I love the whole... I know that it's the first part of the movie, but the whole, like, we're going to go get him. Like, this has to work. We have to get these stones back because everybody is like, holy crap, we actually have hope. Like, Ronan, don't do that. Don't give me hope. Like, I love that line. The emotions, I know that's not one moment. The weight. This movie has weight.
Yeah, and the idea is, like, the whole thing is we were trying to figure out what are the consequences of people coming back.
To a world where they've been gone fight. Like, let's be honest, no one thought that's how it ended. Even in the comics, when you undo the Infinity Stones, it would have reset to the day before Thanos left.
Yeah, it would have reset. The idea is like nothing happened. It was the day before. Nothing happened. No, stuff happened.
And that only happens because Tony has a daughter.
Yeah. It's like, that only, because Tony's like, I don't want to lose anything. And think about all the things that other people have lost. And you get back to this moment where it's just, you know, total callbacks to older films in terms of like, what Scarlet Widow has lost because she's lost her entire family.
Vision doesn't come back.
Yeah.
That's the one Disney Plus show. I'm like, how the hell is that going to happen? Because it's in the 50s and Vision's back somehow.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do this.
The biggest missed opportunities, though, are two big ones for me, and that's Tony not having a couple failed tries at the time travel would have made that moment when he figures it out even bigger, and then Hawkeye. Dude, the weight of seeing those people in Soul World would have motivated him even more to be like, they're there, like, I saw them, like, and then he could have said, like, I saw the kid to Tony, and then his family, and then, like, they all have this idea of, like, holy crap, we can get them back, they're somewhere. Because I hate it's such a missed opportunity for the Soul Stone to have been the giant mystery that it was, and to find out Infinity War, and then to not go into it all. Like I said, tying it to Black Panther would have been the greatest thing ever. Because even Black Panther starts with a meteor landed, and that's where they got the purple. Like Vormir was blown up, and a meteor landed on Earth.
It was like something of like that. And with something, it's a missed opportunity, but that's just as on comment. For me, the scene was Black Widow. That hurt.
I think it hurts more when you watch it again. First of all, this movie, you need to watch like 4 or 5 times. You're going to pick up different stuff. When they leave and she gets excited to see you in a minute, and then she's like...
Yeah, you're like, you got this. But like Scott Lang and his daughter, that moment killed me because it was the idea is like, you're like for him, like...
Paul Rudd doesn't age anyway.
Well, no, not that Paul Rudd doesn't age, but the moment for him, because again, the payoffs for any of the movies has been the relationships. And for the first two, the Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Paul Rudd has always been about his daughter and making sure that...
Right. But can we talk about how important Ant-Man and the Wasp is to the MCU? Would you have ever?
Yeah. Ant-Man, it's the fact that that movie didn't happen. You do not have...
If you don't watch that movie, you're not going to understand Endgame at all.
Yeah, and my roommate was telling me, he went to go see it, and they had dudes like who was like asking, it's like right next to him, he's like, dude, have you been under a rock for like the last 7 years?
Well, I love the whole fact that he's like, it was only 5 years or 5 hours for me. And he's also he has no idea about Thanos or the Infinity Stones. Like, he's clueless, but he's the one with the plan. But that's got to be so weird for him that like has a daughter that he was gone for half a work day.
Yeah, he was like gone. He was like, I was 5 hours. It's been 5 years.
He left a 12-year-old and came back to a friggin' fully grown adult.
Yeah. It was like 5 years, or it was like 12-year-old, and she's 17, and he's like...
That's why I believe New Avengers, because you have Cassie as Stature, the new giant man. Then you have Hawkeye's daughter, Lila, as the new Hawkeye, and then Morgan as Ironheart.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's... Yeah, I'm one of those things. I don't think they... at some point in time, here's what I'm going to say for this. Ultimately, I think Chris Evans will come back and reprise Cap.
That's the thing. There's possibilities there. Either alternate timelines or an old Cap, like just being invasive. Or they could give him the serum again. It could like
you give him the serum again.
Well, in the comics, that's how he ages. They take the serum out. And
they take the serum out. But so it's like Tony's going to come back in some way, shape, or form.
I'm hoping it's the AI. There's no way they're going to leave Robert Downey Jr. out.
But I think like for Robert Downey Jr., he has run his course in terms of this.
It hurts me though. Like he's the mayor. The idea of like no more Robert Downey Jr. Hall H panels, like. Yeah, it's like, now he's going to shoot Sherlock 3 starting next week, which I'm so excited for. But Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Like, that character transcends... Think about this. Because of him, the name Tony Stark is more famous than the name Iron Man.
Yeah.
Think about it. Name another character, maybe Clark Kent, and I wouldn't even say that, that's more famous than their alter ego. No. Nobody walks around talking about Peter Parker. They talk about Spider-Man. Nobody talks about Iron Man.
It's the idea is like he's the reverse of Batman, where it's like Iron Man is his like goofy persona.
Which DC's about to leave. So rumor has they're going to announce the Batman casting this week, and the big lead that I'm hearing is friggin' Cole Sprouse, the kid from Big Daddy, Sweet Life and Zack and Cody. Yeah. But this. It should have had, like, even Infinity War, there's so many moments. I could be like, Star-Lord screws everything up right then and there. The Collector screws it. Like, there's multiple things in there where I could have pecked out, where, like, it wouldn't make sense. Like, the Hulk wouldn't do that. This movie's flawless. Infinity War is a very flawed movie comparatively, but I can't wait to watch them both back to back.
Because the idea, it's a complete...
See this on the biggest screen you can. We've seen it 4 times. I'll have seen it in every format by the time it's done. We're doing 3D tonight, and then I'm doing 4D next week, and you're welcome to join me for that. This in 4D, I think that final battle is going to be the greatest ride ever. But you did IMAX. How was it in IMAX?
IMAX was excellent.
It was shot in IMAX.
It was shot in IMAX. For me, the thing was this: like I was hoping for 3D, but no, it didn't get that. But
well, we're getting it tonight.
It was. Yeah, this movie, there is nothing that they have.
There's no fat.
There's no fat.
But there's no fucking holes in a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, there's no holes. They literally plug every plot hole or everything that you ever questioned about a movie, a Marvel movie. It's like, well, It's like, no, the Ancient One is important, dummy. And then here's the reason.
Which another one we called that she was coming back. People didn't believe. There's a lot of stuff that we called in that movie.
You're like, these like people are like, these people are important for a reason.
Robert Redford, Natalie Portman.
It's like,
by the way, can I hope for a deleted scene with Rocket sticking Natalie Portman with that stick somehow? He had to go get it alone.
It's like Natalie Portman. It's like, we just need you for 5 minutes of shooting. Like,
that's the thing. How did they keep that? They couldn't keep the time travel stuff going back to Avengers 1 secret but they kept it. Robert Redford retired from acting like 3 years ago.
Yeah. And the idea is like Robert Redford coming in here, and that moment where you see him, you're like.
And Frank Grillo, when we reported that he was coming back, people were like, how the hell is Crossbones going to come back? The elevator scene. Like, so many payoffs. But I'm telling you
that entire thing, they got everybody back from that. And you're like, he's sitting there, it's like, hey guys, you want to do anything? You're like, you're expecting that. You're like, nope.
I'm telling you, I can't wait. Like, I hope somebody comments on this and shares that. I can't believe nobody's cracked that Ant-Man reference yet. That's how Tony knew the date. And then that's such a key scene in Ant-Man 1, because that's, first of all, it's the first time you see the de-aging technology on Michael Douglas. But that's the whole, you stole my, 5 vials went missing. He literally says the number that friggin' Captain America takes. Like, how friggin' cool is that? Because you think of that as like this divisive moment. Like, that moment needed to, it's just weird.
And it's because somebody said continuity director, like somebody went over.
You're a Harry Potter fan. It's Goblet of Fire or Prisoner of Azkaban when Harry's waiting because he thinks he sees his dad cast the Patronus, and then he realizes, holy crap, it's him. And it's future him that casts it. Like, it's that moment. Like, I would have never thought they would have cared about that moment.
They do, and that's the whole thing about time travel is like, time travel seems to be a great way to get people out of movies. This is one, like, Days of Futures Past was the one they said, and Star Trek, Days of Futures Past and Star Trek were the movies I said, thank you, time travel is appropriate. This one, I'm like...
Well, when they decided to go back to the 70s, he's like, I have this vague idea, and then you're like, Tony didn't care about his dad enough. How the heck is he going to know when him and Pym were together? It's because it creates that giant fight that causes Pym to leave S.H.I.E.L.D., so that's how he... Like, that scene was bugging me, and I've listened to probably 10 hour-long spoiler reviews from Collider, Kevin Smith, everybody. Nobody has picked up on that yet, and I do not understand. And nobody, like, if PETA doesn't make an ad about rats saving the universe, it's the biggest missed opportunity of all time. Because in the way Infinity War, Quill is the reason everyone got snapped out. Everyone gets saved by a storage compartment rat. Like, that, if that rat doesn't hit that button and spit Ant-Man out, this movie never happens.
Well, here's the other thing where you say, you know how I could have poked a hole based on this one? Is Doctor Strange is...
You just found a plot hole.
What?
Oh, because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he goes in to collect that energy to help heal Ghost, and he gets spit out with the big jar of energy. How the hell did they not use that for anything?
I think he left it there. He was like 5 hours. It's like, this doesn't matter.
And that's the other thing. He's tugging around the lab in that little red wagon. That never comes into play.
Yeah. So it's the idea, well, one, because he's always been very careful about Hank Pym. Like, Hank Pym has been super crazy about his stuff.
You're a Mets fan, aren't you?
Yes.
What'd you think of that? Like, how much we miss the Mets?
How much? Well, even outside of the fact that they showed pictures of Citi Field, it's like,
that's
what it's like right now.
No, you should have cut to Shea Stadium, and they should have had the standings, and the Mets are somehow still in last place, even though they don't exist.
Yeah, it's just like...
But that's the other thing. Like, you see that Ellis Island shot, where it's just become like a deserted wasteland. Well, that was crazy. Seeing New York City as a ghost town.
Because it's the idea of, like, you see all people trying to deal with what they've been through.
Well, Black Widow even says it, like, world governments are in chaos. The ones that are together are trying to take a census. Like,
yeah, the ones that are, like, the fact that America's still around is one thing.
Well, the fact that Cassie Lang is just living in that house like everything's fine. Like, that's what's crazy. When you're like, the world is melted. Like, we don't have... Think Y2K.
Yeah.
Like, there's no planes. There's no sport. If there's no sports, shit is really serious. Because baseball is like... there are going to be 6 people left, and 3 of them will make a baseball team.
Yeah.
But that was very weird. And that world now has to somehow come back to normal. Because that's the thing. They didn't restore the world. That's still a ghost town. New York City's got to go in some real cleanup.
Like, yeah, it's, and you're like, okay, we're going to fix everything.
Then people were wondering in Far From Home when they show Avengers Tower being rebuilt, they're like, what the heck? How could that be rebuilt? It's got to be a prequel. I'm like, no, New York City is just decayed. And Thanos blew up half of upstate New York. Like,
and this is this is where I will say, in wrapping up, Far From Home better have the payoff of what the future is.
It has to, because for them to have announced it was Phase 3, everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? And like they told us 3 years ago, it's going to pick up 5 minutes after Endgame. No one believed me telling them that. It literally picks up with him and Ned right there, which I hope they establish it. Like, half of their class didn't get dusted. Half of their class are college freshmen right now.
Yeah.
Like,
they're even not even...
Upsets me a little bit, though, that, like, the Iron Spider suit gets damaged, the legs get broken off of it and stuff like that. I'm hoping that the red and black suit that we see in Far From Home is a final gift to him from Tony. Because I feel like taking him out of that Stark suit is going to undo a lot of the weight of Tony dying and like his reaction to it. Because I feel like he should be wearing that suit almost in tribute and wanting to be a better hero because of Tony Stark's sacrifice.
Yeah. But even outside of that, it also explains why we get Sam Jackson as Nick Fury doing this.
Just one frame that movie. He's just at the end.
Yeah, it's just that. Well, no. But in Far From Home, it's like Spider-Man. You're like, it's like.
I think he's going to use that against him too. Like Tony Stark died to restore the world. Do you want to leave it to like this crap?
Yeah, it's like it's that whole moment because, and so it also explains what's going to happen going forward. Why we have Jake Gyllenhaal's character doing all this.
They're releasing the picture now, them shaking hands, like working. They do start working together. Peter looks at him as a brother, and then he turns.
Because it's that idea of like he's looking for like Peter just lost a major person in his life, and he's like trying to recover.
Which is going to hurt him even more when Mysterio turns. Because I think Mysterio is creating the characters to like make himself look good in this world.
In a world where everybody disappeared. But even outside of that, it's the idea of like now it makes sense where he says, "I want to leave that suit behind," because he understands his Spider-Man suit. When he says,
No, that's not why. It's because of the weight of everything they're just having the battle. He just wants to be a kid for 10 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Why he's like he wants to leave the suit behind. He's like, you're gonna take your suit, and he's like, no, I just want to be.
Which I don't know how the U.S. trailer didn't cut that. In the international trailer, that's a great scene where he's at friggin' airport security, and they open the suitcase, and the suit's sitting right there with a note from Aunt May, like, thought you might need it just in case. And he freaks out, and like the friggin' British TSA doesn't even know who Spider-Man is, so he just looks like a weirdo. But like that movie has a lot to do, but I hope they don't cheapen Tony's death or impact on him in any way. By the way, I love that Far From Home is doing some of his classic villains as these elementals. The fact that it's Molten Man, Hydro Man, Sandman, and then whatever the fire guy is. But
Hydro Man.
It excites me even more than I was. But can I talk about how mad I am? You knew I'm going to London to see Far From Home. It's the first movie I've ever had on my birthday, and they moved it away from my birthday, just like they did with Men in Black. It's now coming out July 2nd instead of July 5th. Are you kidding me?
Well,
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm still seeing it on the 5th. I'm not acknowledging it. But, like, that made me so upset. I'm like, when they announced that 3 years ago, I lost it. It was one of our first episodes. I'm like, I'm finally getting a birthday movie. Even Independence Day didn't come out on July 4th. It came out on the 3rd. I'm so angry. But that movie, we know he's going to get the stealth shield suit, which Fury will give him. Where is that red and black suit from? Where is it from? It's got to be from Tony. Who else is designing Spider-Man suits?
Yeah.
I don't see Aunt May sitting there at the fucking fabric shop.
No.
Which I love that Aunt May clearly knows because she's at the funeral. Like that post-credit scene from Homecoming clearly happens. The question is, did May get dusted?
Yeah.
She doesn't either that or just Marissa Tomei doesn't age.
Yeah. Marissa Tomei doesn't age, but we're going to just assume. We'll find out in Spider-Man Far From Home, but it's the idea is that the world is back. The world, the people who are lost are back. The other thing is Wakanda. Oh my. When we saw that, it's like, oh yeah, we kept going. It's like we kept going, folks. It's this
Far From Home is going to be really interesting, but definitely understand why now that's the Phase 3. Never been more hype for a Comic-Con announcement. I told you last year, this is the 50th Comic-Con coming up. It's going to be all kinds of special, and the fact that Marvel said we're going to release our next slate after Endgame, I wonder when it could be. It's obviously going to be their SDCC panel. We're going to get the full Phase 4. Now, like you said, we're getting Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2, Spider-Man 3, Captain Marvel 2. Other than that, we got the Disney.
No, well, just right now, we talked about Shang-Chi is on
Shang-Chi,
slate.
that's what I'm saying. Where are we going to go for new ones?
Yeah, Shang-Chi Eternals are on slate.
They can't do anything with the Netflix characters for 2 years. I'm thinking maybe Moon Knight.
So, yeah, you're as far as things, what I'm thinking right about now, I know people are saying 5 years out for X-Men.
I'm hearing 5 to 10 for X-Men. They're going to reboot Fantastic Four way quicker. Yeah. I'm hearing that they want to build like Phase 5 or 6 to eventually lead to Avengers. If there's going to be another Avengers movie, it's either going to be New Avengers or Avengers versus X-Men.
But the idea for this is, yes, Ryan Reynolds is the only person who has the contract left for.
And Deadpool 3 is like underway.
And so you're going to get what you want. But the whole issue here for me is that you have to. As much as I know that you have that long, you have to start integrating. And I will tell you one thing that somebody said, what Ryan Coogler said in Black Panther 2, what he was trying to do is he's trying to get Storm. The rights are now clear. You don't have to make you don't have to make the movie, but you have to bring that character.
Yeah, I love that Alexandra Shipp, who plays her in the X-Men movies, is like, I would never do that. Storm doesn't need a man. Like, hashtag feminism. I'm like, fuck you. That's the one thing I knew about Marvel before I even got to the comics. I knew Black Panther and Storm were married.
Yeah. But like, you don't... So
I think they focus on more earthly storylines. I think the cosmic stuff is going to tone down a bit.
The cosmic stuff is going to tone down, but two things that happened that my roommate pointed out to me that might happen in Black Panther 2 that Okoye brought out was Namor, because Namor has been a secret movie on Slate for a while. Unfortunately, Marvel's going to have to rethink that with the...
Well, no, do you know why Namor has been in suspension? Because Namor was the only Marvel character that was owned by all three studios. Because he's been an X-Men, he's been in the Fantastic Four, and he's a mutant.
Yeah.
So like they couldn't use him no matter what.
So he's been on secret. They've been on secret lockdown for a while now. But my roommate pointed out that may be the villain of Black Panther 2. It could be Kraven the Hunter.
I'm hearing freaking Killmonger's back in Black Panther 2.
Yeah, or it's Kraven the Hunter is another one. That's Kraven the Hunter. But that's
You see, I don't think Sony will let that happen because Sony has. They want a Sinister Six movie. They've tried it so many times.
You do Sinister Six and Into the Spider-Verse. That's how you do it.
That's exactly how you do it.
Don't do it anywhere. But Black Panther 2, Ryan Coogler has definitely tried to talk about the idea, and I'm all for it because this would be the great way. Just if you're going to bring in a character, this is the person to do it into a film and just say she's there.
Marvel's actually just debuted a new hero, which I really like, and it's almost a blend of Venom and Black Panther. So it's this character named Fuse. He's a mutant, but his mutant ability is he accidentally absorbed a vibranium ring. Now he can control that vibranium like a symbiote and then shoot it off like weapons and stuff like that. So he can turn it into this suit of armor, and he can also control it like a symbiote. His name's Fuse. But it's this really bad, like he had to absorb that ring to save his twin brother. So like it was like this choice, like now I'm going to be stuck like this forever. But like the way he uses his powers are really cool. But that's like something like create a new hero in Wakanda.
Yeah.
Like have Black Panther have to help develop a new hero or something like that.
And that's where I say if you want to bring, let's say that happens, you bring Storm in. And the reason why I want to say
we don't even have an Avengers facility. Like there are no Avengers right now.
Like you have nothing. The idea is nobody said anything. That's why I feel like I need to have the Fantastic Four and the X-Men in going forward. You don't have to make an X-Men movie, but you need to start bringing the characters in.
I think that Black Panther will definitely lead the new Avengers. I think that's why they showed that ending scene of Black Panther, him buying the block in Oakland. I think that's where the new, because I think it's West Coast Avengers.
Okay. Yeah.
There's no reason that they picked Oakland unless it's just that, because that's how I honestly thought this movie was going to end up, is that we're going to have an East Coast and a West Coast Avengers, with Spider-Man leading the East Coast and Black Panther leading the West. But I really believe in the Black Panther theory now. With Avengers facility totally gone, he's obviously not going to do it in Wakanda, and he bought that whole place in Oakland for a reason. Like, and plus the fact that West Coast Avengers are a running comic title, that's where I see it going. But I don't think we get another Avengers movie at least 5 to 10 years. Yeah, if we get another event, what would it be? People had said Secret Invasion, Secret Wars. I don't see it happening anymore. What they did with the Skrulls negates Secret Invasion.
So, yeah, what they did with the Skrulls, Secret Invasion is off the table. Secret Wars, anything that's going to be Doom-related, that's what.
And that's the only movie the Russos will come back for.
Yeah,
but you'd have to do a whole phase to build to that. Because that is so deep cuts comics.
Well, it is deep cut, but, like, you're doing Secret Wars.
And are we doing Secret Wars with the symbiote suit? Is that how you bring him? Like, are we going to Battle World?
No, because, again, that's Sony, the way that Sony's treated that. You have to work with the things that you have. So right now, as much as they have much of the catalog back, a lot of the Spider-Man stuff you can't deal with because anything symbiote related.
You know what I'd like to see? Maybe in a Spider-Man movie or something, go the opposite of what Endgame just did and have a character get spit out into an alternate future. Like Old Man Logan type shit, where like all the heroes are old or dead or something like that, and then they have to try to figure out what happened and get home. Something like that. But I'm trying to think, like the biggest event I can think, it's really Avengers X-Men.
You're going to get X versus A, which would be great. But you have to, again, that's where I say you have to start building those bridges now in particular characters. One of the things that I'm interested in is, does Wanda go to Doctor Strange? Because
how are they going to wind up in the 50s?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. WandaVision, don't know.
Like they showed you how they're setting up the other two, and that we've been told that Disney Plus shows will have an impact on the MCU going forward.
Yeah, because they finally own,
And the Black Widow movie's obviously a prequel now.
Yeah. Which
I like. The villain is that David Harbour's playing Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty cool. A Spider-Man villain though. But the future of the MCU, man, it's very unclear for me. I'm obviously going to debut these new heroes, but they don't have that linchpin anymore. You have Thor with the Guardians, but you don't have that member of the Trinity. You don't have that well-known hero going forward, other than Spider-Man, but he's not part of a team.
Well, this is where I say, what do we get at the end of?
Well, Doctor Strange 2 is going to be the first one we get.
No, but what do we
Far
get?
From Home, yeah.
What do we get at the Far From Home? Because for me, the things that you have to do, yes, you have Wanda who can move things with her mind, but the other aspect of Scarlet Witch is her name is Witch.
But what worries me about Far From Home, though, is I worry that after having all these interactions with the heroes and stuff, they're going to kind of separate Peter from the world of the Avengers. Like when him going through all this stuff.
Because
Why wouldn't he call Ant-Man? Why wouldn't he call somebody? Doctor Strange.
But then, even outside of that, one, he has like that's why they brought in Nick Fury. It's like you have no choice. You're going to help me. Like Tony Stark, it's going to be like he's going to guilt him into that.
What I think we're going to get instead of Avengers movies is we're going to get team-up movies. And I tell you now, I'm putting my money. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm calling it now. We're going to get a Tom Holland, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, Spider-Man movie. They're best friends in the comics. I just see it happen. Like they're doing the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. I see team-ups happening, like more so than like the giant team crossovers, like Doctor Strange and Black Panther can team up for something. You know what I mean?
Well,
like these heroes now know they exist. They fought together. They can't go back to not knowing each other.
You cannot do what they did. Like, you can't go back to the individual movies.
Especially when you've had the line Ant-Man, call the Avengers. Like, that's the first thing I do.
It's like, call the Avengers. And especially what Justice League did, and it's like, hey.
And Spider-Man got knighted. He's an Avenger.
Yeah, it's like, I'm an Avenger now. But the thing for me going into these movies going forward, and I'm going to say it, is this. Yes, I do want to see that happen. And I think, what we're going to, like, for me, Doctor Strange and Wanda is one thing, because I want to see Scarlet Witch get into the mystical aspect of her powers is one.
I also don't think it's a coincidence that for the first time ever, it's now 2023, so Marvel's kind of bought themselves a few years to kind of, because the Marvel movies have always run concurrently with us.
Yes.
So now they've kind of bought themselves a few years with that, but we know for a fact after Far From Home, Doctor Strange is being confirmed for next May. Yeah. So that's going to be the first one that we get. I don't know where they go from here, though. Like, obviously, we're going to get those new characters. Without one of the Trinity, I really don't know where we go.
Good. I think we're fine. I think...
I still feel like Peter should have come home and just put mail down and a letter from the Xavier Institute.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do, Comic-Con is going to be this. One, I don't know. Far From Home is going to introduce somebody that, outside of Mysterio, I believe we're going to get a hero character.
I think we're going to get Robert Downey Jr. I think that's going to be the big reveal, him as the AI.
I don't think we're going to get Robert. I think we're going to get somebody else. The post-credit scene, Reed Richards is going to be there.
Well, that's when I said, like, if that red and black suit is from Tony and it's Tony as the AI, like, how cool would that be?
That would be great. And that's fine. And that's a great callback, because then, it gives us that palate cleansing moment for us saying, oh, going forward, we didn't really lose Tony. But again, you're talking about how do we build into the future.
Well, they said, I mean, not only does he upload himself in the comics, in Iron Man they established it, when he loses Jarvis and he's going through the multiple operating systems before he picks Friday. So he obviously knows how to make a bunch of them. Yeah. And he knew that he was going to die because he recorded the message.
Even outside of that, in the region, in Secret Empire, he was an AI. He had an AI version of himself that was doing things as Iron Man.
I mean, we'll be unpacking this movie for weeks, but I cannot urge you enough. See it more than twice. Yeah. You're going to unpack stuff every time. Like I said, I was devastated my theaters didn't clap. Last thing I'm going to say is I really thought it was a great note that the credits were the signatures and like pictures.
We gotta get ready.
No, it's 8:45 is actually our showing, so we're good. And we have assigned seats. Yeah. So yeah, that's going to wrap things up. Obviously, sound off in the comments with what you guys thought of this movie, how many times you've seen it. It's going to break every record. This will be an event. 30 years from now, people will remember where they were when they saw Endgame. It's so beyond Star Wars at this point, because Star Wars is a select fandom.
Yeah, but this one...
Marvel branches out to everybody, and with so many different franchises together, like you can like certain characters. There'll never be anything like this in our time again. You'll never see a movie this big, this monumental, this successful. Like, the exact line yesterday was the entire entertainment industry is in shock watching the numbers go up because they kept having to adjust it. Dude, it made $350 million U.S. opening weekend. That is so insane. Yeah. But we'll always remember where we were, man. And for those of you that cannot see, I am wearing my full Quantum Realm suit, which I wore in the movies, rocking the gauntlet. So we're off. My fourth time, your second? Second. And my first time in 3D. So you guys have yourselves a week. That's been the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Yo, this is Ali Sadiq, and you watching Get Your Geek On podcast with me, baby.
Hi, I'm Brian Brayman, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
You are watching the Get Your Geek On podcast with Chuck, Robert, and Anthony.
I'm Dan Cummins, and you are watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Hi, I'm Mike Tapsic from AMC's Comic Book Man, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.
Oh, hello, I'm Oglethorpe, and you're watching the Get Your Geek On podcast.